The next one that that happens at our quality is revisions, okay? So what do I mean by a revision? So I mean a modification, right? And we have multiple different types of modifications. You can have a modification to add acreage. You can have a modification to remove acreage. You can have a modification to add and remove acreage. You can have a modification to add a control measure. Say you're like, oh, oops, now I'm going to have crushing. I got to add crushing. There's a modification for that. The one that I'm going to show you guys today is an add and remove acreage. And I don't know why I chose add and remove, because those are the ones that people have the most trouble with, but I figure let's go over that one. Okay. So which one am I revising? Well, I have realized that this Challenger school, I am now done with a portion and I have to add some more offsites. Okay, so I need to revise this permit. I've already created a map. Okay, this is the map I've created for this project. This was my existing area, this 8 acres here, this 0.7 acres here, and this offsite trench right here. That's what I had originally. What I'm changing today is I'm removing this because I'm done here, the 0.7 acres. I put some pretty landscaping here and it looks nice. And then I'm adding this offsite utility right here. Okay. So I'm going to click on revise. All right, so you only want to update the information that is changing. This permit application was done between September and today. So all of the information is actually here. You'll notice that it is grayed out, right? You can't change it. If you want to update any of these fields, you select update info, and then it allows you to change it, okay? Update info, now I can change it. So what this does here, it makes it, basically the permit reviewer knows what you're doing, right? Because whatever you're updating, that's the revision that you're making. So if you're changing your project disturbed surface area, okay, they know that that's what's changing. Your acreage is changing. If you're changing an on-site, okay, they know that you're changing a contact, right? Okay. I'm not changing anything. So I'm going to check here that my on-site, that his dust card is still valid, because even when you submit a revision and a renewal, we always check the dust cards. Any application you submit, you have to have a valid dust card holder on site when soil disturbing activities are occurring. Okay. Project information. You know what? So here it says when you're revising it, enter a description for what's changing, right? So I'm going to update this and I'm going to write here, what day is it today? 6/21. Add offsite and remove completed. Okay.
We let them know that if they choose to change the RO or the person in number 2, they can do it this way without submitting a contract.
That'll be the next one.
Okay.
Okay. So say you guys, so you guys can change anything on a revision, right? So say you need to modify your acreage. If you need to change your on-site, you can do that at the same time. And then my project disturbed surface area. This is changing because I'm adding and removing acreage. I'm going to click this button. Okay. Like before, any fields with the red dot must have something entered. If you're just adding acreage, you're going to put 0 for removed. If you're just removing acreage, you're going to put 0 for added. Okay, that's what's going to clear the dot. In my case, I am adding a trench that is 425 feet long by 10 feet wide, which is 0.1 acres. And I am removing that 0.7 acre area that has been landscaped that looks beautiful now. Okay. So now you're going to edit your nonlinear and linear areas to reflect the changes for the acreage that you've added and removed. So I'm adding a linear offsite. I am removing a nonlinear area. So under nonlinear area disturbed, I currently have 8.7 acres permitted. It's now going to be 8 acres. For my linear area, this offsite I have to keep because I'm still working on it. So I'm going to add a segment and I'm going to enter this offsite. And then I can see here my existing project acreage and my new project acreage, which is now 8.21 acres. So the difference is 0.6 acres less, okay? So the add and removes are always a little weird and complicated. Not always weird and complicated. They could become complicated, right? You can submit an add and then a remove later. That is an option. You'll get charged the mod fee twice, right? Whenever you remove acreage, you only pay the mod fee. If you're adding acreage, you're going to pay the mod fee and the acreage fee. Yes, Heather.
We asked, will the new system already calculate or will we need to manually? We have to do it both.
Yeah, so it's a little bit of both, right? So the question is, will the system automatically calculate your acreage for you? So the answer is yes and no. It'll automatically calculate what you've put in these areas, but when you are adding and removing, this math you're going to have to do, right? This math, and you're going to have to know what your linear acreage is. Now, if you don't want to fiddle with what you're adding here, you could always add your segments. So let me just show you what I mean by that. Like if you put nothing in the added yet, oh, whoops, I was on caps lock. And then you're going to add another one that's like, whatever, like this. You can see that your previous existing linear was 0.11 and it's now going to be 0.57. So the difference here would be the 0.46, and then you'd put 0.46 here, right? You could always do it that way with the linear areas.
Let them know that you're going to have linear additions that don't come up with 0.1 if you have something lower than 0.0.
Right.
You have
So
0.1.
Okay, so Heather had said, please mention the, so the 100th point, decimal point, right? So you guys are all familiar with our system, us requiring to 1/10 of an acre, requiring you to say, I'm changing this to or this is what I'm submitting, and it's accurate to 1/10 of an acre. Not that it's going to be accurate to 100th of an acre, but this phase 2 is preparatory for phase 3. In phase 3, we're going to try to get this online payment, right? So for the online payment, we also want the system to tell you this is how much money you owe, right? Or this is the change in your acreage. So there are times that you will add a segment. Let's say because if you have a project and it's 8 acres and you have to add an offsite, and let's say your offsite is like 100 feet by 10 feet, it's not going to change the 1/10 of an acre because it's only 100 feet by 10 feet, but you still have to add it to your permit. So unfortunately, you're still going to have to add that acreage of 100 feet by 10 feet, which calculates to 0.02 acres, okay? This is why, and I know it's hard at the beginning of your project to plan for every single eventuality, but when it comes to offsites, you guys definitely want to include all of them, right? Because you still have to permit it, and later on you might have to pay that acreage fee for a very small offsite. Now, I shouldn't say it's small, because 100 feet in length is big. It's just when you calculate it out in acreage, it's not big, right? Okay. So what did I do here? So sorry, I have this weird thing where I have to make it correct by what I'm doing here. Okay. So that's the project acreage. So that's the most complicated that it can get, right? The add remove. Otherwise, the add, just adding or just removing isn't as bad. And your map must show these areas, right? That still has to happen. All right, so let's see what else is changing. Okay, my red boxes, I have to check these. I'm the owner, I have authority. This is my signature, and the app is ready to submit. Okay, I have to upload a new map. Well, you have to because now we're changing the project acreage, so now we have to show the new area. So it's our revision map. Okay, and now it's ready to submit. So I'm going to click on the submit button. And now this permit application is received and somebody's going to review it.